Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today we will be talking about The Simpsons Season 5. Before I go any further, I just have to say that this is considered my favorite season of the whole series, so this review might be a little biased. But then again, which of my reviews is not at least just a little bit biased? This is probably my favorite season. I want to say largely in part because of sentimental values. This was actually the first season that I have ever owned. Actually, for Christmas, my mom was getting this for me. I guess she finally decided I was old enough to watch The Simpsons, probably because I have been watching it for about 2 years since then. And she does this thing where she likes to give Christmas presents early. I think she still gives Christmas presents early to my little brother. And so she didn't, it's kind of funny. I can't remember how I knew that she was going to give this to me, or if she just surprised me, but it was about a week before Christmas and I was having a sleepover, and I think I was asking her if I could take it with me to the sleepover, and she ended up giving me the first disc of the season. And so I just watched that first disc over and over until Christmas when I got the remaining discs. I had the similar experience to this one that I did with season 2, where every time I would finish an episode, Disney Plus said the next episode that's coming up, and I would just get excited, like, oh, this episode's good, I like this one. And it just seemed like every episode of this season was just a hit. I love so many of these episodes. It was really difficult for me to choose a favorite. I want to say that this is definitely the best Sideshow Bob appearance that we will ever have in the episode Cape Fear. I have my little booklet here, so let me just look through and make sure that I get all the names of the episodes correct. Yeah, so Cape Fear, probably... This is close to being my favorite episode of the whole season. It's definitely my favorite Sideshow Bob appearance. Just so many funny jokes. He's just like, oh, surely there's no harm in laying in the middle of the street. And then the elephant, like the parade, tramples him. Or like, this is the list of people who will not be murdered. And he lists everyone except for Bart. And Homer comes in like, did you hear? Oh, sorry. And then he leaves. And then there's the whole Mr. Thompson joke where the rehabilitation program is trying to get Homer to understand that his new name is Mr. Thompson, so they go through this whole thing. They hire this private investigator guy to convince Sideshow Bob to leave town. And he's like, oh, I can be very persuasive. And he like hides a gun in his jacket. And then it shows him at the bar like begging Sideshow Bob like, oh, come on, leave town. I'll be your friend. You're mean. And just so many jokes like that are hilarious. Another one that I really, really do like is the Homer and Apu. This is the one where Apu, he is selling all these really risky, like all these expired products, and he's ripping everyone off, selling things for a ton of money, and he ends up making Homer sick because he sells him some expired meat. And fun fact, actually, right after I watched that episode, I was on the Simpsons subreddit, and I saw this is like the 32nd anniversary. It was like February 6th. It's officially been 32 years since the ham expired, and I just thought it was funny that I just happened to watch that episode. Lots of funny jokes in this one, too. They go to India because Homer is trying to help Apu get his job back. And he asks, like, he's like this Buddhist monk who started the very first Quickie Mart. He's like head of the whole operation, and he's like this sage sitting cross-legged drinking a squishy. And he's like, you may ask me 3 questions. And Homer's, are you really the head of the Quickie Mart? Yes. Really? Yes. You? Yes. I hope this has been enlightening for you. And so he ends up burning all the 3 questions. Which is kind of funny because you would think that both of them get their own 3 questions. Surely Apu gets his own 3 questions because he was going to ask for his job back. But lots of funny jokes in this one too. He's like, oh. There's like one where, so when Homer is trying to get Apu fired, the news network gives him like a camera with the hat, but like the camera in the hat is just super huge, like, and super loud. This one has the guest appearance of James Woods. And so James Woods, he takes the role of Apu at the Quickie Mart because he's doing research for a role. And Apu comes back to the Quickie Mart just to kind of reminisce near the end. And James Woods is like, oh, you're like the guy. He's like, do you have any good stories for me? And Apu's like, yeah. There was one time that I worked 72 hours. I felt like I was a hummingbird of some sort. And James Woods like, oh yeah, I've seen the surveillance tapes, and it shows Apu like going, and just buzzing back and forth like making hummingbird noises. I'm gonna butcher a lot of these jokes just trying to repeat them. It's never as funny as actually watching the thing itself, but it just cracks me up. This probably has the most out of this world episode of the series. Pun is intended. This is Deep Space Homer, where apparently Homer just gets to go into space. And I think if an episode like this came out nowadays, I would be a lot less accepting of it. But because I was exposed to it so early and I have so much nostalgia for this episode, it seems like I accept it a lot more. Like, it doesn't bother me as much as if a plot line like this was to come out now. It seems a lot more like a modern day video for sure. Oh, this could easily be one of my favorite episodes too. Boy Scouts in the Hood. This is the one where Bart and Milhouse get $20, and then they go on this like huge binge because apparently when you're a kid having $20, you can just buy like anything you want. So they go on this huge spree. Well, let me start back at the Quickie Mart. The first thing they decide to spend their $20 on is a squishy made entirely out of syrup. And so Apu's squirting it, he's like experimental, and it's like just, apparently it's like super thick. I don't know what it is about squishy syrup that makes it thick though. I'm not really sure because I always assumed squishies were like Slurpees from 7-Eleven. And so the syrup there is just like snow cone syrup, right? Like just a really sugary substance. So I don't know why a squishy made entirely out of syrup would be super thick, and like apparently you can't even like drink a straw out of it. So squishies must be something totally else entirely that I don't know. I just always assumed they were like Slurpees. Anyway, you have some of this, and apparently you go crazy and nuts. And in the morning, Bart wakes up, and he's just got like this hangover, and he can't remember anything he did that night, and he accidentally joins the Boy Scouts, and it turns out that he really likes it. And so many funny jokes in this one. Actually, how they end up getting the $20 is Homer finds it under the couch, and he always has these conversations with his brain. I've noticed lately, like, it started in season 4, but they definitely continued this gag in season 5, where he just has these conversations with his brain, and his brain tries to like explain things to him and warn him, but he like doesn't listen to his brain, and he talks back to his brain a lot. And he's just like, $20, I wanted a peanut. And his brain's explaining like, $20 can buy many peanuts. And Homer says, explain how. $20 or money is spent on goods and services. And Homer goes, woo! And then he ends up dropping it, and the $20 gets in Bart's and Milhouse's possession. Just lots of funny jokes like that. So cleverly written. This whole season is an absolute treat. I guess as of this viewing, I'm going to say, and this is really surprising, my favorite episode is probably Sweet Seymour Skinner's Badass Song. And this is the one where Bart brings Santa's Little Helper to show and tell, and this whole event transpires, and it ends up getting Skinner fired from his principal job. This is back in the day when they didn't so closely tie Superintendent Chalmers with Principal Skinner. Seems like modern day Simpsons, they are just interchangeable, but he only really showed up once or twice every season back in the day. And so Skinner, he loses his job, Bart feels bad about it, and they end up actually forming quite a sweet relationship. It might be a little creepy by today's standard, like an ex-principal being best friends with a 10-year-old boy and going out to dinner with him and stuff. That could be construed as something very inappropriate, but in this episode it's portrayed very, very, very sweet. And for some reason it just really rung true with me, but it's got my absolute favorite joke in the season. And Santa's Little Helper, he gets in the air ducts, the air vents, and Principal Skinner tells groundskeeper Willie to go into the air vents. And so he goes to the lunch lady. He's like, Lunch Lady Doris, have you got any grease? Lunch lady, yes, we do. And Willie, he just rips all his clothes up, and he's just super ripped, and he's like, then grease me up, woman! And I just don't know, like that whole line delivery, like, grease me up, woman, as he tears off his clothes. It makes me crack up every time I think about it. It's so hilarious. It's kind of funny because Simpsons likes to parody things a lot, especially in this season, I found. And back in the day, when I was first watching these episodes, not just this season in particular, but most Simpsons I would think that they just came up with this stuff on their own. I really didn't understand the reference material until much, much later. So there's a whole episode, the Rosebud. I think the name of the episode is Rosebud. Okay, so it is called Rosebud, and there's this whole episode where Mr. Burns lost his childhood bear, and nothing will stand in his way of retrieving his bear. It ends up winding up in Maggie's possession, and the Simpsons aren't letting Mr. Burns have his bear back. And anyways, it's this whole parody of Citizen Kane, and I had no idea until my early 20s when I went to film school, and we actually watched Citizen Kane for the first time. And it's just so many cases like that. I'm like, hey, this is off of Simpsons, and I was just exposed to all these things first from Simpsons, and it's crazy because there's probably so many more references that have just completely flown over my head that I still don't understand the references yet, and I'm sure as life goes on and I am exposed to more and more media from back in the day, I will pick up on more of these references. And it is kind of disappointing because it's like, Simpsons didn't even come up with any of these ideas on their own, but they have a certain way of making these ideas their own. And it's very, very funny, and it's just very charming. I really like getting references. So I have to ask you guys, this is probably a reference that I've been missing all these times, but about 2 or 3 times during this season, they say, he thinks he's people. Like the episode where Bart brings Santa's Little Helper to show and tell. They're petting Santa's Little Helper and he sneezes, and Mrs. Krabappel says, "Ha! He thinks he's people!" Or Stampy, Bart ends up getting an elephant from a radio show, and for some reason Bart says, he thinks he's people. Is this a quote from something that I'm missing, or is it just a weird, funny thing to say? Let me know. I'm noticing a lot of memes have spurred from this season in particular. There's the episode where Marge, she just holds up the potato, and I just think they're neat, and that's a meme. There's the one where Homer loves Flanders, and he's like sinking in and out of the bushes. That's a meme. There's the one with Malibu Stacy, and she gets a new hat, and so all the kids are clamoring over it. That's a meme where Malibu Stacy she gets a new hat, and a lot of people use that to compare to consumer practices. I don't know, just a lot of memes come from this season in particular, and I think it's probably because it's the funniest and one of the best seasons that Simpsons has ever had. I guess I'll go into talking about the people in this season. I first want to talk about Otto. And it really seems like Otto is the type of person that they give all these odd jobs. Like, let's say there's a fair, Otto's usually the one running it. Or, like, let's say a bus to transport the old people, Otto's the one driving it. He always seems to pick up on all these old, odd jobs. And this isn't particularly new to this season. He drove the blood donation truck back in the day when Bart donated blood to Mr. Burns, and it seems like they really replace Otto's role in this with either you get the squeaky teen that they always use, the "oh no, I did it again," or the sassy mustache guy, like, "hey buddy, you're smarter than you look," kind of thing. So it just seems like it's those two people that pretty much run all the odd businesses in Springfield, besides the very tailored ones, specifically tailored ones like Comic Book Guy. I'm gonna just say I don't like the Bumblebee guy. I don't really get his whole shtick. The only time that I really found him funny is the episode where Bart gets famous. Oh, that's just such a great episode where Bart gets famous and he goes to the box factory. So many funny jokes in that one where he's like trying to imagine the field trip. And Seymour comes in and he's like, "Kids, who can tell me what this is?" And he holds up a box. And Bart's like, "Well, I'll just pretend, I'll just like make up that we're going on a better field trip. I'll just escape into fantasy." And in his fantasy, Seymour's like, "Kids, instead of going to the box factory, we'll be going to the box factory." There's the joke where Bart is missing from the box factory, and so they call Marge, and Marge is running to the phone, but she's wearing a towel, and she's like, don't hang up, I'm wearing a towel." And then they hang up. Oh, no answer from the mom, better call the dad. And then Homer comes wearing a towel, and he's at work, he's at the power plant. "Don't hang up, I'm wearing a towel." And I'm getting sidetracked totally here. Bumblebee Man, that's what I was talking about. Bumblebee Man, the only time I ever found him really to be funny is when he uses his real voice, and he's like this really smart Englishman. He's like, let's give the audience some credit. And then Kemp, later in the episode, Kemp Brockman, the news anchor, he's throwing a fit, and so Bumblebee Man takes over, and he's just talking in his professional voice. That's the only time I've really found Bumblebee Man funny. Other than that, I kind of just find him annoying. I'm glad that they don't really do a lot with this character. I gotta ask, though, as a white guy, I don't really know, is Apu racist? I know that the comedian Aziz Ansari, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I actually watched a show on Netflix where he is portraying an Indian character, and he's just talking about, like, he shows all these clips of all these racist things against the Indian race, and Apu was one of them. So that kind of got my gears churning. I never really thought of him as racist to the Indian people, but I don't know, because, like, what do you do at this point if he is now considered racist? Maybe he always has been, but this has been more brought to my white privileged attention. I don't know, because you can't really change Apu anymore, like, now, because he is, like, 30 years old now. Like, we've had so many seasons of Apu, it's really hard to change his character. I guess what they could do in modern day Simpsons is really touch on his Indian heritage in a respectful manner. I don't know. I don't know if he's racist, and I don't really have a pony in this race. I can't really say for sure. Let me know what you guys think. I really do like Apu, though. I think he's a really fun character, especially in the episode Homer and Apu. He just gets more and more likable as the whole series goes along. I don't know. What do you do with Apu? I don't know. I want to bring attention to Jasper for a little bit. Jasper is the old guy that often hangs out with Grandpa. He's got the really long beard, and he has a voice like this. And, the Ed Sullivan show's on. And it just seems like Jasper is always there. I've noticed in these episodes, he really is like Abe Simpson's best friend. There's a flashback, and I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head if this is season 5 or 4, but it's showing Abe and Jasper back in the day, back when they were younger, back when Springfield was new and full of hope. And it kind of got me thinking, like, man, Jasper, he's never really had an episode of his own, but he certainly has gotten a lot of screen time, a lot more than you would think than other characters. I guess he's just kind of there to give Abe Simpson some companionship and just to kind of progress his story forward. Speaking of characters, it's kind of funny how some of these characters are developed just from a one-off joke. This is actually the first appearance of Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel. I'm surprised it took till season 5 to finally introduce him, but the episode where Bart gets an elephant, Stampy, Homer is charging money for kids to ride the elephant, and it's just this one-off joke where Cletus is like, hey, get a picture with me on the elephant, kind of thing. And it's just so funny how the Cletus of all characters just steamrolled into a main character in Springfield. Like, I'm pretty sure even all his children, like, one of them is in a romantic relationship with Bart, like she's a reoccurring character even. Another character that came from this season is the baby with the one eyebrow, and is it a boy or a girl? I'm not sure if this baby with the one eyebrow I'm not sure the gender of it. Even the intro of the HD seasons of The Simpsons, she makes an appearance. And it's just from this certain season where it's Maggie's birthday, and they're like, hey, where are the other kids? And Lisa's like, Maggie doesn't get along with the other kids, and she like shakes, like it pans to the baby with the one eyebrow, and Maggie's like shaking her fist at it. Just one little joke like that, and it just spurns into this entire character. Not that you can really say that the one eyebrow baby really is a character. It's not like it has any speaking roles or anything like that. It's kind of more just there for jokes, but it certainly is a reoccurring character. You know, I was watching this and I was just thinking, man, isn't it just convenient that all of the Itchy and Scratchy episodes are relevant to what's going on in the main plot of the episode? It just so happens that that's the one that Bart and Lisa happen to watch, and it's just like, so like in the episode Deep Space Homer, they just happen to be watching the episode where Itchy and Scratchy are in space, and I guess it's just kind of to tie everything together. Well, guys, it's just such a good season. And if I was to introduce someone to The Simpsons, I would definitely start with this one. I guess I'll just go into a quick speed round and just look through all the episodes. Homer's Barbershop Quartet. This is the one where they like parody the Beatles. Very funny. Homer Loves Flanders. I kind of touched on the meme in this particular episode, but it's just so funny seeing Homer. Like, everything goes well for Homer in this episode, and he's just being such a nice guy. And Flanders, it's just fun to see Flanders finally start getting bugged by Homer, and it's just lots of funny meme potential in this one, lots of funny jokes. Lisa versus Malibu Stacy, she's got a new hat, kind of lots of I really like the message in this one, the joke in this one where the Lisa's like, the doll, something's wrong with what the doll says, and the other girl's like, something's wrong with what my doll says, and she pulls a string, and it's Spider-Man. The city's in trouble, anyone call for a web slinger? And that joke was just cracks me up anytime I think of it. Burns' Air is another great one. It's just that type of season where every episode it's either great or amazing, and that's why I will give this a score of 5 out of 5. Well, guys, that should be it for Season 5. I'm going to hop right into Season 6. I'll probably watch the first episode right after I'm done recording here. I think the first episode is the one where Bart breaks his leg, and I really like that episode, so I will talk to you guys when I'm finally finished with that season. For now, let me know what you think about Simpsons Season 5 or The Simpsons in general. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you just want to bounce quotes back and forth, I'm totally down. That should be it for me, though. I'll talk to you later. Bye!